Okay, resetters, on this video, we're back on apple cider vinegar. I know you all love apple cider vinegar, which is amazing, and there's so many cool ways we can use it. What I want to show you and talk to you about today is how do we use it in conjunction with fasting for longevity. The focus on this one, what I really want you to think about is a term that I probably haven't brought to you enough called glycation. So glycation is where your red blood cells are gooked up with too much glucose. And glycation is the way to speeding up the aging process. So let me walk you through this for a moment. With a red blood cell that has a lot of glucose molecules on it, what the red blood cells in your body, one of their major purposes is to deliver oxygen to every single part of your body, specifically your brain. So if these little, think of it like pieces of gum on the outside of this red blood cell is gooked up with glucose, then it cannot deliver oxygen. And so what ends up happening is you end up with areas of the body that haven't been given oxygen, like the brain, and when the tissues don't get oxygen, they start to degenerate. So we've got to handle this glycation issue. And here's what I want you to think about. The measurement for glycation is hemoglobin A1C. So I know that like when you go into your doctor's office and they look at hemoglobin A1C, what they're doing is they're looking at, are you diabetic, pre-diabetic? Where are you on the diabetes line? But I want you to look at that hemoglobin A1C from the lens of longevity. And longevity says we need hemoglobin A1C under 5. The closer we get to 4.5, the better for our long-term existence and here on the planet also will start to minimize chronic diseases. So let's get a hemoglobin A1C of somewhere between 4.5 to 5. Now you're not gumming up these red blood cells. Now you're getting oxygen to other parts of your body. So just want to point that out, that that's the target we're going for when it comes to slowing down the aging process. Now, where does apple cider vinegar fit into that? Okay, let's go there. It's super fun. First thing is that it literally stabilizes your blood sugar. So I've done videos on this. This is how I know you all love this. Please go watch those videos. I'm sure my team will put some links in here for you. But apple cider vinegar before a meal or after a meal brings your blood sugar down. I have tested it on my meter when I'm wearing one. Absolutely works. Highly recommend that you use it to stabilize blood sugar. Okay, well now what does that do for longevity? How does that tie in? Well, let's say I eat a meal that's high in carbohydrates. And all of a sudden I eat that meal, maybe it's pasta, and I realize, oh no, like that was way too high of a glucose meal. You come in with apple cider vinegar, take a tablespoon of it, put it in some water, drink it, and all of a sudden now your miraculous body starts to bring down that blood sugar, making it easier for you to switch over into the fasted state. Now, that same meal without apple cider vinegar may stay high for several hours, and it may be difficult for that blood sugar to come down. Remember, if you can't use that glucose, it's going to be stored. And where in the places this glucose gets stored is around the red blood cell, which is affecting this hemoglobin A1C number, affecting the oxygen that's being delivered to the body. Like I'm giving you the keys to the longevity kingdom right now. We got to get that number under control. And we can do that by stabilizing our blood sugar, and so grateful for apple cider vinegar for helping us do that. Okay, second thing apple cider vinegar does is that it's an incredible prebiotic for the microbes in our gut. Now, I talked a lot about microbes here on this channel. I gave you a whole chapter on microbes in the menopause reset, but you know, the microbes in our gut do a lot of things for us. But one of the things that I don't think these microbes get enough credit for, and I'm writing about this currently in my new book, is how they support serotonin production. So 80 to 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. And if we can have nice diversity of microbes, we can make a lot of serotonin. And the more serotonin you are, the happier you are, in theory. Now, I can't tell you if you have a horrible life that all of a sudden you get a dose of serotonin, everything's going to be better. But in general, we know that if we can improve our serotonin system, typically we'll improve happiness. Okay, well, what does that have to do with longevity? Well, we have to remember that stress, when we are unhappy, there is clinical research over and over and over again saying that the more chronically stressed we are, the more we start to damage neurons in our brain. And the more neurons are damaged, the more our memory goes, the more our focus goes, the more our happiness goes, the more our brain fog, sleep, memory processing, the less we can learn. All the things that we fear as we age can happen if we've been living a life of chronic stress. So let's fix that system. And the door in using apple cider vinegar is let's incorporate it every day. Let's put it in our drinks. Let's put it before our meals. Let's put it after our meal. Let's put it in our salad dressings. And if we do a little bit every day, we're supporting these microbes that will make serotonin for you. You might find after a couple of weeks of doing that, you're just a little bit happier. And if you're a little bit happier, you might be able to handle stress better. And if you can handle stress better, all of a sudden now you're not degenerating neurons. And if you're not degenerating neurons, you're not aging in a very fast way. For the brain, the name of the game is neuroplasticity and keeping those neurons working really well as we age. Did you catch that? That's the cascading effect and how simple something like apple cider vinegar can be to really change the aging game. Okay, got one more for you. That's not it. I mean, that's not it. And I get it. Like apple cider vinegar is pretty miraculous. But here's the third one, is that apple cider vinegar is going to help you switch over much quicker into fat burning mode. Now, why would you want to switch over there? And this is for if you want to lose weight or don't want to lose weight. Why would you want to be over in fat burning mode a little bit more? And here's why, is that once we're over here, I want to think of it like it's a little bit like a vacation. Like you're over here and there's like, oh, you could lose weight. You can repair neurons. You can make more dopamine. You can get more dopamine receptor sites. You can reboot your white blood cells. What do you want to do? It's like an all-inclusive vacation when you come on over here with lots of options. Well, when we're trying to slow down the aging process, what we want is we want more ketones to help support neuronal health. We want our immune system, we want the white blood cells to go away that are bad so we can get new white blood cells. We want to repair our gut microbiome. We need new dopamine receptor sites. Like all of the things that aging starts to wear down, the more I'm in a fasted state, the more I start to be able to hang there longer to get all that repair. This is why so many people are crazy about fasting outside of weight loss, is because the anti-aging effect. Okay, well, where does apple cider vinegar fit into that? Well, this is where if we can use apple cider vinegar like a lever that helps with this glucose over here, so you don't get this real high spike, we use it just to be able to control this better, you're going to metabolically switch over there quicker. So some of you will, I've seen your comments that you're like, I'm going 24 hours, 36 hours, and I'm not able to get a ketone. What's wrong with me? Well, let's come back over to here, to the food system, to the sugar burning system, and let's try to get that blood, like no blood sugar spikes. Like the name of the game would be like very little blood sugar spikes, but we could use apple cider vinegar in conjunction with our meals to make sure that we don't get that spike. And if you don't get that spike, you may move over into fat burning quicker. And once you're over there, now we're getting better white blood cells, dopamine receptors, repairing the gut, stem cells, all the things we want for aging. We just moved over there quicker using apple cider vinegar. See how that works? So it's not complicated and it's not a party trick. It's not like, you know, it's like when I do a video like this, I'm definitely not going to be like telling you like, drink some apple cider vinegar and you'll stay, 20 forever. Or you'll reverse your age. It doesn't work like that. But it does have a magical approach to it, and that's why I wanted to give you the whole formula so you understood it. And if you're using apple cider vinegar to help you get into your fasted state more, please tell us in the comments. I love hearing your stories about how you've used something powerful like an ancient healing tool like apple cider vinegar to be able to support not just weight loss and a healthy microbiome, but actually just put the brakes on aging. Isn't that what we all want? So, as always, don't give up on yourself. Then definitely, hopefully after a video like this, you'll understand that, there's a lot more to the aging game than just jumping in some cold plunges or jumping into a fast. We can really slow that process down if we understand what we're doing.
You want to know the foods that will support hormones? Guess what? I have them for you already. It's a free giveaway. Just click the link below and I'll send you a list of all the foods that support amazing hormonal health.
So let's start with the science, because that's where my brain always has to go. It has to start with the science, because I got to understand if something is going to actually work for us or if it's just a fad that people are saying is working. So here's the current science. So this was based off of a 2021 meta-analysis. So this basically, a meta-analysis means that they took many different studies. In this case, they took 6 studies, and they were type 2 diabetics they were studying. And they didn't say men or women, by the way. And there was 317 patients total with type 2 diabetes. And they also didn't say, which I wish they had, was exactly how much apple cider vinegar they had. So at the end, I'm going to show you what I think happened here. But what they decided after looking at these 6 studies was that, yeah, apple cider vinegar is actually really good for some very specific metabolic markers. And here they are. It was great for lowering fasting blood glucose. Okay, that's kind of cool for those of us who want to learn how to get into ketosis a little bit easier. So I'll show you how this could really be used for those of you that are trying to deepen your experience in this fat-burning ketogenic state. The second thing that it showed was that it lowered hemoglobin A1C. Now, I want to point out that hemoglobin A1C is you're looking at glucose and insulin over a 90-day period. So it's a really good trend to mark. So it did show that it lowered that. It lowered cholesterol. Well, this is good. I also, whenever I see total cholesterol, my brain always goes down to looking at HDLs and LDLs. So this one also, what they found is that it lowered LDLs along with total cholesterol, which is awesome. We like that. We want those LDLs to be lower. So when you look at these 4 things that apple cider vinegar did in a fasting window, I walk away from a meta-analysis like this and I go, okay, cool. This is great. This could be a tool. I'm going to show you the application here in the moment. But then where my brain has to go after this is, okay, why did this happen? What does apple cider vinegar do? Because here's the thing about fasting, is it is truly an experience where you are enhancing your body's own capabilities. So when we look at this science, where I start to see that it breaks down, or the reason that these changes happened was because we started to see changes in the microbiome. And this is so important because we tend to think when we're dealing with fasting and food that those 2 behaviors are only changing human cells. But remember, you're 10 times more bacteria than you are human cells, and those bacteria control blood sugar. This is really important for those of you that have ever been told that you're diabetic because of genetics. You've been told you can't lose weight because of genetics. You've been given a diagnosis you don't like because of genetics. Well, guess what? You're 10 times more bacteria than you are human cells, and those bacteria control the human cells. And this is the study that's showing that when we start to take in apple cider vinegar, my guess is it made a microbiome change and we got these results. So looking at those 2 pieces of the equation, my brain says this could be a really good tool for fasting. So how do we apply it? So this is what I did. I looked at all the different fasting types that we do. And I thought about you guys, I thought about the people in my membership group and like how we all apply fasting differently. So, and if you're new to my channel, I just want to point out that's like my #1 creed, is that we are going to apply fasting uniquely to us. So the first thing is be your own N of 1. N of 1 just means you're going to test it on yourself. So if you have a continuous glucose monitor, test it on your own blood sugar. If you have a Keto Mojo, test it on a Keto Mojo. But just because it worked for these 317 patients that were type 2 diabetics doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, but it could. So you got to test yourself. The second thing, as I looked at the application, is I would start with a tablespoon in water. Now, if you're like me and you don't like apple cider vinegar, then putting it in water, maybe mixing it with something like an element pack. So I'm gonna have to experiment with this, and you guys who have mixed it with things, put it in the comments what you've mixed it with. But you know, a simple element pack, this one is citrus salt. I would think adding this in a big glass of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, that would probably taste a lot better to me, maybe to you as well. And if it lowers blood sugar in the fasting window, that could be a really cool thing that we add in to move you into ketosis a little quicker. So, and then the next part of the application that I want to point out is that in order to get this long-term effect on your blood sugar, I strongly believe it should be done in your fasting window. So remember that we have an eating window and we have a fasting window. So I know some of you guys are gonna ask me, well, what about in my eating window? What about the night before I fast? Should I do it then? I actually think this is a tool that we are gonna use in our fasting window primarily. Now, why do we want to use this? Well, other than these great results, why else would we want to use this? And again, you know, if we can bring blood sugar down while you're fasting, you're going to move from sugar burner to fat burner much quicker. So the first thing is let's get you into fat burner a lot faster. And when you're in fat burner, we know that you're in that place not only because you start losing weight, but because the hunger goes down. So those of you who are trying some of these longer fasts, I actually think this could be a really cool tool to kill hunger. Now, those of you that are struggling to get into ketosis, you're doing everything right and you can't get into ketosis, my advice to you is to try some apple cider vinegar to bring that blood sugar down to see if we can get you deeper into a ketogenic state or even into ketosis at the first place. And then those of you that are like, I'm doing everything, I'm in ketosis, I got sugar burner, fat burner down, but I'm not getting the results that I want to get, that's where I go, okay, this could be a tool to regulate blood sugar, a really simple, easy, fairly inexpensive tool to regulate blood sugar so that you can get better results with your fasts. Now, as I did some research, because I want to make sure anything I give you guys is going to be effective, is backed by science, and is going to help you, I want to make sure there's no little nuances that I missed and that you need to be aware of. And there's one. And here's what it is. Apple cider vinegar can start to reduce potassium. Now, this can be a problem if you do too much. Now, I know you're going to ask me, like, what is too much? I don't have the statistics on too much yet, but I'm sure I will go find it and bring it to you. But one of the things we know about low potassium, one symptom that a lot of fasters get is restless legs. So if you know you're already prone to restless legs, then you're going to want to make sure that you don't do too much apple cider vinegar, or you want to make sure you do it with an element pack, because this has potassium in it. Or if you've had a blood test and you know you're already low in potassium, I really want you to be aware that over the chronic use of apple cider vinegar could bring potassium levels down, and that ultimately could not be a health thing for you, whether it's restless legs or a bigger problem.
Okay, you know how when you're trying to get in and out of fat burner, sugar burner, and sometimes you struggle? It might be that you have a metabolic blocker that's at play here. Want to know what those blockers are? Click on the link below and I'll take you straight to a giveaway and you can have my list of metabolic blockers. There are a lot of great vinegars out there, and the science is showing us
we may want to add this in to our diet on a regular basis, not just for overall health, but specifically weight loss. So I'm going to go through 5 different reasons you want to add vinegar back in. All 5 of these were done on apple cider vinegar. So that's going to be the vinegar that I really recommend that you bring in. Although all vinegar has some of these benefits, the science has just been done a lot on apple cider vinegar. So here are the 5. The first 2 are all around your gut microbiome. So the first one that's really relevant, especially for those of you that are working with building a fasting lifestyle, is that apple cider vinegar is high in polyphenols. So remember, if you read Fast Like a Girl, I really lay out how important a diet that is rich in what I call the 3 Ps, for polyphenol, probiotic, and prebiotic foods. The reason that that is important is those are the foods that feed your microbiome. So when we put apple cider vinegar into our diet, we're feeding the good microbes. Now, what's interesting about that is, remember, those of you that are fasting, especially when you go into the longer fasts, like 24-hour fasts, you are changing the terrain on the inside of your gut, giving a great opportunity for the good microbes to grow. So think about using apple cider vinegar in that meal that you add back in after a longer fast, because the fast itself is going to help to balance out the terrain on the inside of your gut. But then when you add the meal with apple cider vinegar, you're going to grow all these good bacteria. Now, to take this knowledge that I want you to embrace around how important this step is that when we grow the good bacteria, those bacteria, there's actually a connection from your small intestine to your liver that are going to help your liver make better ketones, more ketones, and burn more fat. So let's make this applicable to you. You're building your fasting lifestyle. Maybe you're not getting into ketosis as much as you, or as deeply as you would like. Let's lean into those longer fasts, and then let's make sure that when you break your fast, you're putting apple cider vinegar on whatever that meal is, so we can regrow good bacteria that are going to have a long-term benefit to you in your ketogenic weight loss efforts. Okay. Second thing I want you to know about apple cider vinegar that is backed by science is that it shows that it actually kills the bad bacteria. Now, the study I'm going to link here says more about E. coli, that apple cider vinegar has been known to kill E. coli. So if we take these first 2 steps, it increases polyphenols, which is going to grow the good, and it kills E. coli, which is going to kill the bad. And then we pair that with some of these longer fasts, you now have this crazy tool to reset your microbiome, not only leading to better weight loss, but remember, the good bacteria also makes you B vitamins. It also is going to make you neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, for better mental health. So it also impacts your immunity. So it's such a simple tool paired with a fasting lifestyle that can have this profound effect on your microbiome. Okay, third one, this is for those weight loss people. Let's dive into insulin sensitivity and really talk about what apple cider vinegar can do here. This was really interesting to me, is that apple cider vinegar improves insulin sensitivity specifically after a high carb meal. So check this out. This is a really cool way for you to use this tool, is that 60 minutes post high carb meal. I know you all are going to ask me, what's a high carb meal? I mean, we all have a little different variation. The study didn't say what the high carb meal was, but to me, a high carb meal is something that's like 150 grams of carbohydrates or more. That would be net carbs. So on our, let's use the principles I teach you in Fast Like a Girl. On our hormone feasting days, if you want to keep glucose up, but you want to be able to make sure that glucose is getting into your cells through increasing insulin sensitivity, could we use apple cider vinegar, specifically 2 tablespoons post high carb meal, to be able to start to increase insulin sensitivity so that your body can use that glucose more efficiently? I personally love that as a tool. The second part of this, another study that I found, showed that 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar at night before you go to bed resulted in a 4% drop in your fasting blood sugar at night. So those of you that are waking up with the dawn effect, which you're getting these high amounts of glucose in the morning, or if you're seeing a lot of liver dumping of glucose at 2 in the morning, which I talked a lot about here on my channel around fasting, what if you just take 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and you drink it before you go to bed? Or that's going to help even out your blood sugar levels, so you wake up with a lower fasting blood sugar reading, which is great, which is moving you towards the fat burning place that you want to be with your fasting lifestyle, and help you burn fat quicker. So I like that idea. So we now have, it's going to improve the microbiome. It's going to change the terrain in our gut, so we can move into ketosis a little deeper. We also now have that after a high carb meal, we can use apple cider vinegar to bring make better insulin sensitivity in our body. And now we can use it before dinner to bring our fasting blood glucose down for the morning. I mean, we're already at like a really good, vast amount of reasons to be doing apple cider vinegar, but I'm not done. Let's keep going. Fourth point is that studies have shown that after a high carb meal, different study, same principle, when you do apple cider vinegar, that they're finding that your total, so it's actually during your high carb meal, if you include that people were getting full quicker. So this is for my people who are like, oh, I'm like learning to fast, and all of a sudden I go to bring food back into the equation, and all of a sudden I just eat and eat and eat. I can't control myself. Okay, well, if we want to increase fullness in a high carb meal, what science is showing us is that 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar resulted in a 200 to 250 calorie decrease in the amount of calories that you eat when you bring apple cider vinegar into the picture. That's pretty big. I mean, so now we're increasing fullness just by adding apple cider vinegar in. We're getting better insulin sensitivity, and we're changing the microbiome. But that's not it. That's not the end. I'm not ending there. There's the 5th point here, which is really interesting because it was done on a long-term view, 12 weeks. What they did is they took 2 groups and they reduced their calorie intake by 250 calories over 12 weeks. And they wanted to see what happened to these 2 groups. But one group, they added in, again, I don't know what it is about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, but they added in 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And they found that the group that added in these 2 tablespoons, plus they decreased calories, they saw a greater loss in their hip circumference. So they're losing weight around their hips. They also saw their total BMI go down, but also their triglycerides go down and their HDLs go up. So those of you that are looking as you're building this fasting lifestyle and you're starting to see that your cholesterol's going up, okay, well, let's start adding in long-term 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and let's see if that has a long-term effect on your triglycerides and the elevation of your HDLs. Those of you that are trying to lose weight, especially around your hips, okay, let's start to add 2 tablespoons in and see if we can lose that weight around your hips. And then just for overall BMI, I know a lot of you that are trying to get pregnant and you've been told by your doctor that your BMI is too high and you're never going to get pregnant, or those of you who are really struggling with just overall maybe cardiovascular health and your doctor has said lower your BMI, why don't we just add 2 tablespoons in of apple cider vinegar over the long haul? So 12 weeks. So that is impressive science. And some of these studies I'm going to link are small. You can go check. Those of you that are science hounds, go check that out. And some of these studies are a little bit bigger, a little bigger sample size, but nevertheless, those are 5 reasons to bring vinegar back into your diet. Okay, if you've made it this far in the video, it's a sign you definitely need to subscribe. If you love that video and you want to dive into more of the information I have on this channel,
go to this video. And on this video, I'm going to expand on this idea around what the heck do we do with belly fat?